Chapter 2. How to Arouse That Acquisitive Feeling. To go back to the very beginning, what is the first thing to do in writing any business letter? Before you put pen to paper, before you ring for your stenographer, decide in your own mind what effect you want to produce on your reader. What feeling you must arouse in him. If you want your readers to say, as the crowds did of Demosthenes' famous rival, "What a clever speaker," then it is quite all right to start with catch, phrases, and the like. But if you want to emulate Demosthenes, whose hearers forgot all about him and their interest in his message, then your whole effort must be centered on arousing the feeling in them. Let's go. For back of every successful letter, as back of every sale, is a created feeling that impels the reader to act as you want him. It is the whole purpose of every business letter, whether it be sales, collection, adjustment, or complaint, to make your reader want to do the thing you are urging upon him. How are you to arouse that feeling in him? How would you have to feel yourself before you would place such an order as you have in mind? Before you would grant such an extension? Before you would send a payment to this man in preference to all others at a time when it was an effort to send $1 to anyone? What would you want first to know? What about the proposition would interest you most? What would you feel you had to gain by accepting? What would you lose by refusing? They say the Parisians have a formula for love letters. Begin without knowing what you are going to say, and end without knowing what you have said. That may be good medicine for love letters, but it was never meant for business. Though, to do the Frenchmen justice, such of their letters as appear in print indicate that while they may not know what they are going to say, they have a pretty clear idea of the emotion they want to arouse in their reader, and they leave no stone unturned in the doing of it. And after all, isn't that the whole purpose of a letter? Books have been written about the importance of attention and interest and argument and clinchers, but aren't these mere details? When you come down to it, isn't the prime requisite arousing the feeling in your reader that he must have the thing you are offering, or that he cannot rest until he has done the thing you are urging him to? Consider the two following letters, for instance. The first follows all the rules. It wins attention, it creates interest, it describes what it has to offer, it has argument, conviction, clincher, yet it was only moderately successful, whereas the second letter literally pulled its head off. Why the difference? Because the first letter was aimed only at the intellect, whereas the second, while it tried to convince the intellect, aimed its real appeal at the emotions. And when it is action you want, go after the emotions every time. The finally revised, illustrated edition of Wells' history in 4 volumes, at 1/4 less than the original price of 2. Dear reader, at last H.G. Wells's famous Outline of History has been put into its finally revised form, illustrated with 100 famous historical paintings, and brought out in 4 regular library-size books. 1,000,000 copies of the outline were sold in the bulky 1- and 2-volume editions. 1,000,000 more people wanted it, but they waited for a lighter, more easily handled volume. Here it is, a brand new edition, freshly revised of 4 standard library-size books, for 25% less than the price of the original 2-volume set. And that isn't all. For a long time, Mr. Wells felt that parts of his history needed rewriting, that other parts should be clarified, and the whole thoroughly revised. This was his chance. Starting from the very beginning, he changed every single page of the text, rewrote whole chapters, added page after page of additional matter. This is final revision. In discussing this edition with a friend while in America, Mr. Wells said that the revisions would make the original English edition look like a Stone Age effort. There are 100 new illustrations, reproductions from historical paintings from the great art galleries of the world. Not only New York, but the art stores and galleries of London and Paris were searched through for these. It is the finest edition of the Outline of History that has ever been brought out. Yet you may have it if you mail the enclosed card at once at an amazingly low price. 1/4 off! Think of it! Finally revised, printed from brand new, clear, readable plates, with 100 new pictures besides those that were in the discarded editions, and bound up into 4 beautiful, library-size volumes, all for 25% less than the original 2-volume set would cost you even now in any bookstore. Here is our offer. H.G. Wells's remarkable history, the most engrossing story ever told, being the complete romance of Mother Earth, bound up into 4 regular library-sized books, illustrated with 100 famous paintings, and a year's subscription to the Review of Reviews, both together for $12. Payable in easy, never missed payments of $1 a month or $10.50 cash. Wells begins with the dawn of time, before there were men, before there were even reptiles. In broad, magnificent strokes, he paints the picture, bringing you straight down to today. In a few vivid pages, he brings the whole past back to life and makes you live through it. More, he makes it all one connected story, shows you the thread of human purpose binding men together, the world over from one age to another. And the Review of Reviews makes the history of today as alive and interesting as Wells makes the years behind us. Without waste of time, it gives you the boiled-down sap of world events, equips you to discuss national and international affairs intelligently, enables you to read your daily paper with real interest and understandingly. Only one condition we make. There is only one condition, that you send in your card within 10 days after you receive this letter. Such an unusual offer as this cannot be held open long. We can give you but the one chance. Mail the enclosed card without money, and we will send you, subject to a week's free examination, the new 4-volume Wells Outline of History at 25% less than the original 2-volume price. At the same time, we will enter your subscription for 1 full year of the Review of Reviews. Remember, you don't risk 1 penny. If for any reason you are dissatisfied with the history, if you don't feel that it gives you the utmost of book value and satisfaction, return it at the end of the week at our expense, send 25 cents for the copy of the magazine delivered to you, and cancel the order. The enclosed card obligates us only, not you. Signing and mailing it puts the burden of proof up to us. May we hope you will mail it today? Earnestly yours. Here's the second letter. Your last chance to get these 4 volumes for 25% less than the price of the first 2. Dear reader, do you know what's truly significant about all the prehistoric fossils and ancient civilizations that have been unearthed in recent years? Not the fact that the dinosaur eggs found in Mongolia may be 10 million or even 100 million years old. Nor whether the temple of the moon god in Ur of the Chaldees was built before the Tower of Babel, or whether the temple of the sun god in Mexico is even older. Not even whether mankind dates back to the primitive ape man of 500,000 years ago, or sprang fully formed from the mind of the Creator. These things, after all, are of little consequence to us today. The truly significant point is that from these discoveries, humankind is, perhaps for the first time, beginning to gain an understanding of that infinite life principle that moves the universe and the untold possibilities it opens up. In Wells' Outline of History, you read how for millions of years this life principle was threatened by every kind of danger. Sudden climatic changes, lack of food, floods, earthquakes, droughts, volcanic eruptions. But each new threat only spurred it to develop a new resource. Pursued through water, it sought land. Pursued over land, it took to the air. To breathe in the sea, it developed gills. Stranded on land, it formed lungs. To protect itself from glacial cold, it grew fur. In temperate climates, hair. Subject to alternating heat and cold, it produced feathers. To meet one danger, it developed a shell. For another, speed of foot or wing. But always, from the beginning, it showed the power to meet every living need. All through the history of life and mankind, you see this same directing intelligence. Call it nature, providence, or what you will, rising to meet every need of life. No one can read Wells without realizing that the whole purpose of existence is growth, that life is dynamic, not static. It is ever moving forward, never standing still. Electricity, magnetism, gravitation, light, these are merely different manifestations of the same infinite and eternal energy in which we live and move and have our being. Wells gives you an understanding of your own potential. You learn how to work with and take advantage of the infinite energy all around you. The man at the crossroads, terrified and uncertain of which path to take, feels no such fear after reading Wells. His future is his to shape. For the only law of infinite energy is the law of supply, the life principle that formed the dinosaur to meet one set of needs, and the butterfly to meet another will not fail in your case. You need only understand it, work in harmony with it, and claim from it what you need. Your last chance to get Wells at the low price. The low price we've been offering on Wells' Outline of History was possible only because we contracted for 100,000 sets at once. Because we were willing to take the risk of paying royalties on that vast quantity in advance, and because we had previously sold over 150,000 copies of his one-volume edition, Wells agreed to reduce his royalties on these sets to a mere fraction of the usual amount. But we can't expect to sell such a quantity again. Nor can we risk manufacturing at a scale large enough to keep our costs this low. Of the 100,000 sets we contracted for, 95,000 have already been sold. Fewer than 5,000 remain, and if you had seen the orders pouring in at 500 per day last season, you'd realize just how quickly those remaining sets will vanish. While we still have books left, we want them to go to our longtime customers and friends. Of course, we can't discriminate. We must fill orders as they come, but we can urge you to act now. Here's our offer. Send the enclosed card, without money, and we will forward to you, postpaid, a set of Wells' Outline of History for a 1-week free examination. Open it anywhere. Read just a few pages. Then try to put it down. If you don't agree with the New York Tribune that it's the most exciting book ever written, simply return it. But be warned, fewer than 1 man in 20 has been willing to part with his set once he's opened it. The payments? You'll laugh. Just $1 a month for 12 months for this magnificent set of Wells, plus a year's subscription to the Review of Reviews magazine. You know the Review of Reviews. You know it brings you the best in science, literature, drama, politics, philosophy, international affairs, everything needed to keep your mind alert and well-informed. It gives you the foundation for sound conversation and clear thinking. It places you and keeps you among America's intellectual aristocracy. Don't put it off, not until tomorrow, not even until after lunch. Things deferred until after lunch too often aren't done at all. Do it now while this letter is in front of you. Just pencil your name and address on the enclosed card and drop it in the mail. Let the orders come in by the hundreds. You will be guaranteed your set by immediate prepaid shipment. It's been worth more to me than a college course, wrote one reader. If you can read but one book during the year, said President Hopkins of Dartmouth, that book should be Wells' Outline of History. The enclosed card brings it to you for a week, free, etc. Why does a tabloid newspaper outsell a clean, well-edited sheet 10-1? Why can Billy Sunday or Amy McPherson fill great tabernacles while the average clergyman preaches to empty pews? Emotion. The religion that sweeps cities, that brings masses of converts, does not appeal to the intellect, but to the emotions. When Muhammad first preached his doctrines, they were rational and moderate, and attracted few. Only when he added the emotional elements did his message sweep over half the world. You may not be founding a new religion, but you do want action of some kind. And to get action, you must arouse emotion in your reader. You can persuade his intellect that what you ask is right and in his best interest. But until you ignite in him an urgent desire, until he feels that no effort is too great for the reward he'll receive, your letter lacks its most essential quality. You may have everything else, but if it lacks that, you might as well throw it away. It will never make you money. 15 years ago, a young man in a small Connecticut town had a book and an idea. The book had been written for serious-minded men to show them the path to success. But letters and advertisements describing its content left readers cold, so cold that the original publisher failed. The young man, once the publisher's bookkeeper, bought the plates and stock at auction. He believed the book could be sold, not with a dry summary of its contents, but by arousing ambition in readers through emotional appeal. He had only $200 left, but he risked it. The result? He turned that $200 into $2,000 in direct mail orders. He reinvested every cent, snowballing his success like a stock gambler playing his winnings. In the 15 years since, that young man, A. L. Pelton, sold over $2,000 worth of books. The book was Power of Will, and he sold it the same way he sold his first 1,000 copies, by appealing not just to intellect, but to emotion. His story is typical of every major mail-order success. What revived the long-forgotten book of etiquette? It had gathered dust for over a decade in the Doubleday, Page and Carver's stockroom, until Nelson Doubleday sold 1 million copies. Was there a sudden national wave of politeness? Hardly. It was fear aroused by letters and ads, that a social faux pas could cause embarrassment. Why do people buy slimming belts, face creams, or hair tonics? Why do they diet or endure strenuous exercises? Not because reason tells them to. Not because they enjoy it, but because vanity, a deeply emotional force, drives them. By all means, appeal to reason. Give people a logical excuse to buy, something they can tell friends or use to soothe their own conscience. But if you want results, real results, base your core message on a primary emotion. And that is the end of Chapter 2. If you would like to grab your copy of the Robert Collier Letter Book, click the link in the description and you will find it available in German, Spanish, and French, alongside many other fundamental marketing books. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more direct response content. See you in the next one.